Well, I think this is an excellent class, and in terms of top to bottom, probably without a doubt the strongest class that we've seen so far because there is a lot of redeeming value in all four of these individuals. There's just some minute differences between them, and as good as they are, the young lady's calf wins for fun, in my opinion. That's the sharp featured, super good looking calf that is so stout and muscular from behind. He's sound at the ground and very, very mobile. A calf that I just admire a lot of qualities about him, and I think he wins with ease in a very good class. 2 and 3 are the closest decision for me. The young man steering second is one that is more attractive and more composed in terms of his look and presence. As you study him in terms of his silhouette, I think he is better in terms of the way that he utilizes his rear hog and his hip when we get him in motion. Now, he gets too upright and stilty in terms of his front end and his knee. He's not as powerful in terms of his shape as the red steer that comes behind. The red steer has more muscle. He's bolder in terms of his center, a calf that wants to break and separate in terms of his top line behind his blade. And while he is better out of his front end in terms of his range of motion, he's the calf of the pair that if you'll study him when he exits the arena, he gets underneath himself and outside of himself in terms of how he utilizes his rear hog. Gentleman comes in fours, got a big-bodied, well-fed steer that's good in terms of body shape. He's the calf, though, that's the most uncoordinated in terms of the way that he goes, the lightest muscled one of the group, but still a calf that is very, very good. I like all of them in that class quite well. Give them a nice round of applause.
Results of our middleweight British steer class. First place goes to Cameron Kaufman, Navarro 4H. Mason Rader, Marion FFA. Third place goes to Megan Still of Steel FFA. Our heavyweight class of British steers coming in the ring next. We'll have 5 steers, and the weights will range from 1230 to 1474.
Well, another very good class in terms of rounding out the British show. And to be honest with you, compared to last year, for the depth of quality to be as strong in the British division as it was in the American division, I wasn't quite expecting that right there. But it has been really good in this set of cattle. And I'll be honest with you, this one up front's a stud. That's just all there is to it. The worst thing about him is his attitude. He's not wanting to cooperate with the young man. Maybe his calf's hyped up. It's a little chilly out here. Maybe he's a little hyped up because he's nervous about the county fair. That is an outstanding calf. To have that much power, that much shape, be that stellar looking in terms of his profile, and when he'll actually get out and go for the young man, while he's not perfect in his hog, that is a sound moving, very good calf in terms of his structural integrity. I like that one really, really well. I won't lie to you. I think he's good. Calf 2 and 3 is the closer decision for me, and it's a typing kind decision. Calf that comes in second is better in terms of his balance, his profile, his length, his extension. He's by far the sounder calf of the cattle out of 2 and 3. That's why he gets there to be in second. He's not nearly as powerful as the white steer in terms of his muscle and shape, but he's better structured and he's better looking. Some of you will get the white steer into second because he is tremendously big backed, very, very powerful in terms of his muscularity. You can see both on the stance, and when we get him in motion, he gets too far outside of himself in terms of his front end, wants to get underneath himself in terms of his range of motion from behind. Really chock full of muscle. He's just got to be better structured for me. We got a calf in 4 that the young lady does an absolute killer job showing. One that's long-sided and beautifully balanced. He's just too deep in terms of his chest, doesn't have as much power and substance. Calf that come next is one that you like him for his depth of body, one that's good in terms of his front end. I told the young man he just runs out of muscle, and he's a calf that gets a little uncoordinated from behind. Another great class. Give the kids a round of applause.
Results in our heavyweight class of British Steers. First place goes to Jackson Missildine, Marion FFA. Second place goes to Cody Kelso, New Berlin 4-H. Third place goes to Reese Buckner, New Berlin 4-H. And fourth place goes to Ellie Slaughter of Marion FFA. Now coming in the ring is our division championship for select our champion British steer, our heavyweight steers. First place out of the first class, lightweight class, is Madison Bogle. Second class is Cameron Kaufman. And third class, heavyweight class, is Jackson Missildine. The second place steers will come in from those respective classes are Emily Papa, Mason Rader, and Cody Kelso.
Well, a tremendous set of British cattle, as I kind of alluded to there in the prelude of Class 3. Once again, y'all are awfully quiet and awfully timid out here this morning. These kids have worked hard. They're just as cold as you. They don't have on jackets. Give them a big round of applause, please. And I mean this sincerely. This is a really impressive set of cattle, and I am sure that many of them will go on to do big things at the upcoming major shows. Kev out of Class 1, if you can give him a new set of Goodyear tires, he's going to give them all you ever want, because that calf is muscular, shapely, stout, good looking. For me and someone that values structure and integrity, I need to see him go better off either end of his skeletal system. In that class, there wasn't one that suited me enough in that area to beat him, and I like a lot of things about him. Young lady that comes out of Class 2, that's a beautiful calf, and he's sound moving. He's got more than enough shape to him. He's one that's very attractive in terms of his lines and balance. Just everything fits and blends so effectively on that calf. He is not as stout or as opened up as another one out here, but I think that calf is just one that I like so many things about. Young man out of Class 3, I think we know what I like about this calf. He's a stud. There's no doubt. Stout, powerful, gorgeous in terms of profile, still moves good. My hope for the young man and the showman and the calf is maybe they both take 10 deep breaths and just chill out a little bit, because the calf's a little worked up. It does not matter, though. That calf has to win this deal. He's just way too good not to. Congratulations to you. Had a nice set of seconds over there. This young lady out of the middleweight will be reserved. Congratulations to her.
Our champion British steer comes out of the heavyweight class. That would be Jackson Missildine. And the reserve is out of the middleweight class, Cameron Kaufman of Navarro 4-H. Let's give them a round of applause. Next class in the ring will be our lightweight exotics. We have 8 steers in our first class. They range from 914 to 1,034 pounds.
Well, a nice start to the exotic or the crossbred division out here, and I'll be the first to tell you that the two steers that I land them up front are polar opposite in terms of type and kind. And I'm okay with that because they both have a lot of good things about them. To me, what separates them out is the white steer's just more flexible, way better in terms of his rear hock and his pastern. He's a calf that's sound moving. He's stout in terms of his feature, really bold in terms of his top seat power. Get in behind him. He's square from behind, and he handles good for one of this weight and size. So why is it so close? He's just not good enough looking up front for me. He's too short and thick in terms of his neck, gets deeper in terms of his chest, and he's too bold and open in terms of his shoulder. But he is so much sounder than the red steer. He's got to win out. If I could change the back tires on this red one, he'd win for fun. That is an incredibly good-looking calf that has a lot of muscle, a lot of shape. He handles well. He's one that I think is adequate in terms of his depth of body. He's not going to be the sappiest bellied one that you've ever seen, but it proportions out fine. Problem is you watch him exit the ring, he's entirely too straight out of his hip and his hock and going from behind. I love the calf in a lot of ways. He's got to be sounder for me. This calf in third is good necked, bold centered, got some muscle. He's too low set in terms of his shoulder, his front end. He gets frailer in terms of his bone work from behind. Just a calf that's not quite as cool in terms of the way that he pieces together as the next two. This young man's an awfully good showman here in 4, and his calf is really muscular and shapely, good in terms of his body content. You can see that his tail head, his hip, and his hind leg, those parts and pieces just don't blend and cooperate together quite as well as they need to, but he did an awfully nice job showing. This young man's hung in here, and he's done a great job. That calf's been unhappy since he hit the gate. That's a very stout, powerful steer in terms of muscle shape, good in terms of body dimension. He's a calf that just gets too tight and tense on the top side of his spine, breaks and separates behind his shoulder. We've got a nice bodied calf here next that's fairly good in terms of his movement, not enough muscle and power. Black steer's long-bodied, long-fronted, a calf that wants to break and separate in terms of his top line, runs out of power. Another young lady that rounds out the class did an excellent job showing this calf. Very good in terms of his head and neck set, long in terms of his side. Got to be built wider from the ground up. Very good class. Two good ones up top, just very different. Give them a nice round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Placings in our lightweight exotic steer class. First place goes to Emmeline Wall from Steel FFA. Second place, Leighton Zwicky, Marion FFA. Third place, Holden Raider, Marion FFA. Fourth place, Cole Marcel, Navarro 4H. Fifth place, Mason Richter, Steel FFA. In sixth place to Robbie Holdman, Navarro 4H. Now coming in the ring is our Class 2 exotic steers. There's 7 steers in this class, and they range in weights from 1,046 to 1,090.
As in this particular class here, I really like both of the steers that come up to the top of the class. There's some differences between them. And I'll be honest to you, for me, it's close. This paint calf stopped is really something to behold. That calf is super cool in terms of his look. He is unmatched in terms of his power, his stoutness, his body shape. He handles very good. Just one that puts all those things together when we leave him in the parked or neutral position, as intriguing as anything as we've seen maybe today. When we get him in motion, he's not perfect, and I realize that. He is a little straighter in terms of his rear hog. He doesn't want to get out and move as effortlessly as I'd like him to, but that is getting hypercritical on a calf that has so many extra and exaggerated parts and pieces. He still needs to win. And I do think the red steer is more comfortable when we get him in motion. He's more flexible from the way that he goes from behind, and he's still an attractive calf with lots of body. He's not nearly as stout and burly. He's not as attractive on the top side of his neck because he's got a little crest there, but a calf that I think keeps it close because of his advantage in terms of the way that he goes. Young lady's calf coming in third, big back, thick-ended. You can see right here that one just doesn't get out and go as effectively as that one needs to, but that one definitely has some positives in terms of body shape. Told the young lady with the gold steer next, a muscular, stout bone steer, little drier in terms of rib, little lower set in terms of front end. Again, movement is an issue on that calf. Rolling around with the next one, you like him in terms of the fact that he's attractive up front, good in terms of his lines. He needs more power. He needs more substance and shape. The red and white steer is one that is ultra good looking up front, very long in terms of his side. I told the young man in the cowboy hat, he just gets too tapered and tubular in terms of his body, frail in terms of his bone and foot. Black and white steer is one that you, again, and very impressive in terms of the fact that he's been fed very well, smooth in terms of his finish, good in terms of his roundness of rib. He's the one that has the most struggles. Moving off either side of his skeleton, he's also the deepest in terms of his chest, throws his balance off. Give him a nice round of applause, please. right before I placed these three, I looked at these kids. I said, two of you are going to be mad, and I don't blame them. This is a tough class and a good trio. And to be honest with you, you can start or end with any of these three. You just have to describe them right, because there are parts and pieces of them that have advantages over the other. And I'll be the first to tell you the white steer is not my choice in terms of the way that he looks through the front 1/3 of his body, because he's not as sleek in terms of his design or his silhouette as the next two. He is the calf of the three that is so impressive in terms of his back shape. He is so stout and powerful in terms of his muscle. He's the best handling calf. He's the boldest bodied calf. And with that, while I will not tell you he's perfect in terms of the way that he goes, he's sounder than the next two, and that's the real reason that he wins. That muscle and that structure combined is the reason he gets first. I'd like to see him more attractive up front. Young lady's calf that comes in second does have an advantage there. He's sleeker and sharper in terms of his feature and front end. He's one that when we get him in motion, he gets awfully uncoordinated and choppy from behind in terms of the way that he handles his rear two. And he's a calf that, while he is better looking up front, he is one that wants to be a little rounder in terms of the way that he goes and break and separate behind his shoulder. But a lot of good in that calf. Problem child is the calf in three, to be honest with you. That's the one that I gravitate to in terms of show ring presence. Poise, I think there's enough muscle in that guy. He's not as stout as the two up above him. That knee and front end bother me a good bit. And getting a little shaky up front. As I said, I know that they're going to go on to different shows. If I can change that about him, he can win, because that one's the most my type and kind. I just am concerned about his front end structure. Young lady coming next has got a calf that's got muscle and power, not as good in terms of the way that he handles, not quite as good in terms of range of motion. Calf coming after that one is big boned and stout. Told the young lady a nice top steer. Calf that gets too coarse in terms of his joints, wants to get outside of himself from behind, round out the calf with round out the class, with a calf that's wrong-sided and nice looking. Got to have more muscle and power. Give him a good round of applause, please.
Results of Class 3 exotic steers. First place goes to Cameron Kaufman, Navarro 4-H. Second place goes to Addie Lemberg, Marion FFA. Third place goes to Bowen Ivy, Navarro 4-H. Fourth place, Isabella Hartman, Navarro FFA. And fifth place goes to Georgie Wyatt, Navarro FFA. Now entering the ring is Class 4 exotic steers. There's 7 steers in this class. The weights ranging from 1196 to 1,224 pounds.
Well, another good class out here. I think very logical on how it sorts out. Young lady steer up front has the one that really has a striking look in terms of presence, one that's got more than enough muscle and power. He is the best handling steer that has come in the ring, and I want to commend her on that. Just feels like velvet out here, and one that puts together some really neat pieces in terms of attractiveness, show ring look. Now, I think what keeps it close is if you'll study him out of the transition in terms of his hip, his spine, and his posture, he gets tighter there than what I would like to see him. I'd like to see him just better in terms of the way that he goes, and he's never going to be the biggest bone steer, and I get that. But he's got a great look. He handles incredibly well. He's got more than enough muscle, and he is just better in terms of his show ring presence than the calf that comes in two. Calf that comes in two is a very solid steer. The Brindle calf is one that's got muscle and power. He moves good. I like that about him. Gets a little plainer as you study him up front. Not quite as attractive in terms of his design and balance, but a calf that keeps it very close because I do think he is better structured. Young man that comes in three has got one that I like the fact that that calf has really got a neat look up front. He's muscular and shapely. He's a steer, though, that compared to the two in front of him, I told the young man his body shape, his body build is not as impressive. A calf that doesn't handle as well. This is a powerful calf in terms of muscle shape, good in terms of handling quality, a calf that wants to be a little more forward and open in terms of his shoulder placement, a little more upright in terms of his knee. Calf that comes next is one that's long-sided and big back. You can study him as he goes from behind, wants to get outside of himself and awkward in terms of how he handles his rear two, red and white marked steer next, stout, powerful, square in terms of his build, entirely too outside of himself up front. Just got to bring him in more in that particular area of his body. Black calf that rounds out or completes the class. Good in terms of roundness of rib, depth of side. A calf that as you study him in terms of his pasterns and his ankles, not nearly good enough to rise up and get any higher in this class. Another great class, good kids. Give them a big round of applause.
Results of Class 4 in our exotic steer division. First place goes to Madison Harborth, Marion FFA. Second place goes to Cody Kelso, New Berlin 4-H. Third place goes to Cole Marcel, Navarro 4-H. Fourth place goes to Randon Schwab, Marion FFA. Fifth place goes to Reagan Holdman. Let's give these exhibitors a round of applause. Next in the ring will be Class 5 exotic steers. The weights in this class range from 1,250 to 1,294 pounds.
Well, another very competitive class out here, and the easy thing for me to do is to find the black and white steer of the little guys at back to win, because that calf takes some of the parts and pieces of the next two, puts them into one package, because I think he's a steer that's really got a lot of power and shape and burliness to him, and yet he's still a calf that's attractive enough in terms of his silhouette. And he's very good moving, and he gets out and moves better than the next two. That one's never going to be called sexy fronted or long necked, but I think there's enough there in terms of composing a show ring silhouette, and his structure advantages get him over the two. And this one is really attractive, young man. From his shoulder forward, he's got that look that I appreciate in terms of his show ring silhouette. Is there enough to him in terms of muscle? For me, there is, but that calf is swallowed up by the two on either side of him. I realize that. He's considerably more comfortable than the calf that comes behind him. That's why he gets to stand in second. I'd like to drop him in terms of his flank and power him up. Some of you like the calf in third because he's stout, he's burly, and there's a lot of him. I like those things. He's not my kind, because he just got as much to him up front as he does from behind. He's not as sleek in terms of his look. He's not as streamlined in terms of his balance. And then of the top three cattle, he bothers me the most. When we get him out and going, he's just awfully unorganized in terms of the way that he goes. I'd like to see more show steer look from him. Talked to this young man here. I asked him if he tried him as an American. He said he did. I said, understand that's how it goes. I think if that calf was in the American class, he would have played very hard, because he's powerful, he's shapely, he's got a good look. When we get him out here in this class, that sheath detracts from him some. He's a little more opened up in terms of his shoulder. He's not as far along in terms of his finish as those three up above him. Probably that's because he got some American character and bloodline in him. But that is a nice calf. Here we got one coming around next that's very long-sided and level in terms of his design. Not enough muscle and power. Young man steer that rounds out the class. Beautiful neck steer. Really tall-fronted. A calf that just runs out of power and shape. He's the one that really gets in trouble in terms of how he handles his rear too. Give him a nice round of applause.
Results from Class 5 exotic steers. First place goes to Parker Missildine, Marion FFA. Second place goes to Cade Pape, Marion FFA. Third place goes to Noah Richter, Steel FFA. Fourth place is Noah Richter, Steel FFA. Fifth place, Mason Richter, Steel FFA. Let's give those exhibitors a round of applause. The next class we have entering the ring is Class 6. The weights on these steers run from 1326 to 1366.
tremendously good class in terms of quality and yet very logical in how it sorts out. And the gray steer, he just hits a home run in a lot of areas for me. He's a steer that's stellar in terms of his look and his balance, and yet he is tremendous in terms of the way that he handles his body shape and build. And then he's a powerful steer in terms of his muscle, and he handles it all quite well in terms of his structural integrity. If I'm going to modify him, and I will, he gets a little low set in terms of his rear posture. I'd strengthen him in that particular area, but that is getting hypercritical on a calf that is so extra and exaggerated in so many areas. And that's why he beats this calf. This is a good calf. He is sound. He is muscular. He is attractive. He's just not as out there as the calf that wins, but a calf that very, very solid. Nothing that needs to be modified or changed. Just gets in here with one that's really, really special. We've got a calf in third on the stop from point of his hock up. You like him because he's got a good look. He's got muscle and power. Told the young lady he's a little frailer in terms of his bone, foot, and feature compared to the two steers ahead of him. I don't think he's quite as comfortable or flexible when we put him out of motion. That calf there is a truck in terms of muscle mass, width, and dimension of the young man that's coming next, red and white steer. With that added power, though, he's got it up front, too. He's not as good in terms of the way he holds himself, in terms of his shoulder and his knee. I'd like to see him go better, but you can't deny that there's a lot of width and a lot of dimension in that guy there. And then we close out with one that's completely different in terms of type and kind. Told this young lady a really pretty balanced here in terms of attractiveness and profile, long neck, high neck set there. A calf that runs out of just natural shape and power amongst the contemporaries here. Give them a nice round of applause.
Results of Class 6 exotic market steers. First place goes to Tucker Wells, New Berlin 4-H. Second place goes to Jackson Missildine, Marion FFA. Third place goes to Reese Buckner, New Berlin 4-H. Fourth place goes to Cooper Benavides, Marion FFA. Now coming into our ring is our final class of exotic steers, Class 7 heavyweights. There are 5 steers in this class, ranging in weight from 1390 to 1490. And 4 will qualify for the sale.
Another very good class. I think this is the last class in the exotic division, and the black steer wins because he is probably the most truck-like individual that we've had out here in the show that yet can still get out and go quite well in terms of his comfort level, his flexibility. He's a steer that if you study him from the point of his shoulder back, he still balances quite nicely. He handles fresh. He's a calf that I can change him here too. Study him in terms of his joint work there on his hock and knees, change that a little bit. And once again, while I still think he looks like a show steer, there are going to be cattle in classes and lineups that are more attractive and sleeker and sharper, like the calf that comes in second. He is the better next, better looking one. There's no doubt about that. That calf is sharp featured and long sided. He's a steer that's got more than enough product to him. If we leave him stopped, I can use that calf to beat the calf in the lead. We get him in motion. He's just not as collected or as organized in terms of his skeletal system. He's not as comfortable and flexible, but he definitely has some advantages over the calf that wins. Young lady's calf in third, big body, stout, powerful, little past his prime, both in terms of his look and the way that he handles. Young lady's white calf's got a ton of power, a ton of mass. Study him out of his hip and his hind leg. Those areas of his body just don't cooperate or complement each other as well as they need to. We've got a long neck, long-sided calf that comes next. Just got to build that one wider from the ground up. Good way to end. Nice class. Give them a round of applause.
Results in our final class of exotic steers heavyweight class. First place goes to Bentley Wells, New Berlin 4-H. Second place goes to Tyler Schneider, Marion FFA. Third place, Presley Ivy. Fourth place to Gabriella Reesing. Now entering the ring is our division championship. We'll select our champion exotic steer. All 7 class winners are going to be coming into the ring. Our first class is represented by Emmeline Wall, and the second place in that class will be Leighton Zwicky. First place in Class 2 goes to Corbin Serta, and the second place in that class will be Clayton Kurlick. Class 3, Cameron Kaufman, with second place going to Addie Lemberg. Class 4, first place goes to Madison Harborth. In second place, Cody Kelso. Class 5, winner is Parker Missildine. Cade Pape was second in that class. First place in Class 6 is Tucker Wells. Second place goes to Jackson Missildine. In Class 7, Bentley Wells. And second place goes to Tyler Schneider.
That's good. Well, as we get out here in the champion lineup, the crossbred division has been good and the quality has run deep amongst the classes. These kids have worked hard for several months now to get them to this point, along with their families. Give them a big round of applause for their efforts out here. Tell you what, y'all were a lot better crowd last year, and it was way colder. I don't know why you don't want to clap for these kids today, but y'all can do better than that. Give them a nice round of applause. Look how damn easy it is right there. Every class, you can do that. I tell them at shows all the time, I get mad when y'all don't clap. These are your kids. They're not mine. Y'all should want to support them. Y'all should want to clap for them. But It is what it is. This is a good lineup out here. Very, very competitive. There's a KF that just wins so effortlessly for me. A KF that's beautiful. He's balanced. He's stout. He's sound in terms of the way that he goes. He's got one minor flaw, but that silver one's very easy. The champion. Congratulations to you, young man. We're going to bring that second in, stud him a little bit more, and then we'll talk some more. Well, as I said, when we picked the champion, a good lineup, that KF won easy for me, but I knew this would be a close decision, and it is. I think there's 3 or 4 of them out here that I could settle on and be very, very happy with because so many of them are in contention. I'll briefly run through them. The white steer won a very complicated class, and he won that class because he was sounder than the KF that came in second. He's a steer that's chock full of power and muscle. A KF, though, that in terms of his show ring look, not as competitive as he needs to be. Be honest with you, young man, that paint steer that comes out of class 2 hits me as hard as any of them that are left in the lineup in terms of his look, his presence, his balance out here. He's one that is so shapely and muscular. I talked in class. He's one that's not perfect in terms of how he utilizes his rear hug. That is KF for this lineup. I am more comfortable with him doing something super special at a major show than any of the other one, but he's going to be in a lightweight class because he's only like 1090. That KF's not out of the hunt. I like him well. Got a stout silver steer coming next. Powerful and shapely. Wants to get a little underneath himself. His calf here is stopped. Is as good as any of them in the lineup because he's beautiful in terms of his balance. Gorgeous in terms of his profile. There's enough muscle and mass in there. We talked in class. He wants to get a little tense in terms of his spine, his hip, hock, and maybe not a stout bone, but you can't deny the show ring presence in that particular individual. Got a solid steer here. Powerful, shapely, muscular, adequate in terms of feet and legs, gets a little plain up front. The calf that comes out of the champions class, I told you he'd be a good one, and I like your steer, young man. I think this calf is very mobile at the ground. I think there's enough to him in terms of his body. He's got more than enough muscle. He's not as extra or exaggerated in certain features or areas of his body, but he's a very good steer. The black steer at the back, young lady, you like them the same kind every year because the one you brought to me last year is exactly like the one you have this year. Stout, powerful, massive individual that's very good in terms of his feet and legs. You know, we can nitpick on him in terms of his chest floor and the way that he comes apart up there. Not perfect in terms of his hop joint, but to have that much power and stoutness, be that mobile, very, very hard to do. And he does have some unique factors about him. So I think it's close. That's how I see him. I don't like his chest and I don't like his hock. I think he's the second best exotic. You'll be reserved. Congratulations to you.
Our champion exotic steer comes out of Class 6 and belongs to Tucker Wells of New Berlin 4-H. And the reserve exotic comes out of Class 7 that belongs to Bentley Wells from New Berlin 4-H. We'll now be bringing in our champion and reserve division winners. From the American division, our champion belongs to Carson Kaufman, Navarro, and our reserve American belongs to Peyton Harborth, Marion FFA. Our British champion, we brought in by Jackson Missildine, and the reserve by Cameron Kaufman. And our champion exotic will be led by Mr. Tucker Wells, and reserve exotic, Miss Bentley Wells. After we get done with the selection of our grand champion steer, we will be conducting our county bred class. So if you have a steer that you want to show that was bred in the county, you can enter them in that class and bring them to the ring. We also want to announce before we start the heifer show, we are going to take about a 15 to 20 minute break so they can get pictures of the steer champions and reserves. After that, we will start with the heifer show. We've only got 12 or 13 entries, so it's going to move pretty quick. So you need to be up here and ready to go, and then we'll conduct showmanship after we get done with the heifer show.
As we get set to pick the Grand Reserve at the county fair here, once again, give all these kids a big round of applause. Excellent show all the way through. Really good set of cattle. Kids have worked hard at it, and not only just these 6 steers in the ring, but several of them in classes, some deep in those classes, are going to go on and get brands at major shows and do bigger things than that. I know, and I realize that that's why when they asked me back, I jumped at it, because just a really super deep set of cattle here that I will watch as they go on through the next month and a half and see how they end out. I think it's a 2-horse race, and I like them both exceptionally well. I think they're both cattle that after they get done taking their backdrop pictures here today, they're going to go on and do bigger things. Just very, very tight, and it's simply which one hits me the hardest. I will use the exotic calf to be the champion. The Hereford will be reserved. Give them a nice round of applause.
Our champion steer of the 2025 Guadalupe County Youth Show is led by Mr. Tucker Wells. And the reserve champion steer comes out of our British division, and that would be Jackson Missildine. Let's give those exhibitors a round of applause. Our next class to come in before we take a quick break will be our county bred steer class. Anybody interested in entering or that has a steer that was bred in the county needs to go ahead and bring them to the ring now.
Once we get out here to select the Champion County bred, I think it's a neat deal that y'all highlight the kids that either bred them own or purchased here from inside this county. So again, very, very neat that you highlight these exhibitors. Some of these cattle were very competitive in their own classes, but obviously KF at the back is the one that I prefer. Congratulations to you, young lady.
Fifteen, 20 minutes. Yep. Our Champion County bred steer belongs to Miss Carson Kaufman from Navarro 4-H, steer weight 1330. All right, this will be our, I guess we'll call it our first call for all junior breeding heifers. First call for all junior breeding heifers. All right, we're going to go ahead and get our heifer show started. Our first class will be Class 1 Americans, Aiden Engelhardt from Clemens 4-H. It is a single entry class.
As we move into the heifer portion of the program, we start out in a real nice way. Young man brings us a Brangus female here that's ultra attractive in terms of her front end. She's strong down her top and straight in her lines and ample in terms of her body width and depth. So a strong place to start. We'll study her further in division in the champion lineup. Give him a nice round of applause.
Our class winner in Class 1, our single entry, is Aiden Engelhardt. Now, Class 4, which will be normally the last class in the calf division, will be Will Gray Mahaffey from Seguin FFA.
Young man's group female is one that, in terms of her balance, she's one that's very strong down her top and level in terms of her underline. A flat, smooth-shouldered female that's adequate in terms of her muscle. We'll study her further in the division champion. Give him a nice round of applause.
Our winner in Class 4 was Will Gray Mahaffey. Now we will select our champion calf American calf division female. So let's go ahead and circle those two around, both of y'all.
Well, as these two guys bring them around and get them lined up as we select champion KF in the American division, please give them a nice round of applause for their efforts. I think the heifers have some similarities in terms of their balance, their profile, their femininity. I think the biggest comparative note or difference within the pair is that one is considerably more stable in terms of the way that she handles her rear hip and her hog. She's sounder at the ground. And for that reason, the black heifer will be the champion. Young man's red heifer will be reserve. Give them a nice round of applause.
Our champion calf in the American division will belong to Aiden Engelhardt and reserve to Will Gray Mahaffey. We will now have our Class 8 American, which will be part of our junior division, Miss Whitley Beatrick. She'll be a single entry in this class and this division.
Single entry in this division, but the young lady's female could stand some competition because she really is one that, for an American type female, is striking in terms of her silhouette, and yet she's ultra deep and broody in terms of her body appearance and shape. She's very sound and flexible at the ground. Just a highly competitive female that the young lady does a great job exhibiting. Give them a round of applause.
First place in Class 8 and subsequently also our champion junior heifer in the American division belongs to Whitley Beatrick. Next in the ring will be Class 13 in our American heifer division and exhibited by Brody Pfizer.
Young man in the purple brings us a muscular, stout, shapely individual that's still one that's very lean in terms of her neck set. Female that's good in terms of her condition out here. We could trim her up in terms of her brisket some, but very good job showing her. Give him a nice round of applause. We'll study him further later.
Congratulations, Mr. Pfizer, on your class winner, Class 13. Next, we have Class 15. We have 2 entries in this class, Jordan Nascora and Noah Richter.
Gentleman's heifer is going to lead off this pair, and there's just a lot more to her in terms of her body shape and content, her muscularity, and just her overall proportion out here. One that she wants to struggle a little bit in terms of how she operates out of her rear hock. Heifer that comes in two is more elegant through her front end. The longer-sided female of the pair, she just gets too tight and tubular in terms of her rib shape, a little flatter in terms of the way that she's made. Good pair, just different in terms of type. Give them a nice round of applause.
In Class 15 American Heifers, first place goes to Noah Richter, and second place goes to Jordan Nascora. Now we'll be selecting our champion senior division in our American Heifers. Out of the first class, we have Brody Pfizer, first place. In second place out of the second class would be Noah Richter. And our second place out of the second class, or Class 15, would be Jordan Nascora.
Well, we've got a nice trio out here in this division. Just some major differences in terms of type and kind. This black heifer at the back won the first class. She's one that when we get her stopped and propped up, definitely one that's attractive in terms of her head and neck set, good in terms of her lines, and a female that's definitely got more than enough muscle, power, and body to her. I said, in terms of her brisket and chest, I'd like to change that part of her, modify that to make her even more special in terms of her silhouette. In terms of movement, I don't really think there's a big difference between her and the Brahmin female that wins the second class. I think they're both sounding up, but we could tweak them just a little. Brahmin heifer up front, really good in terms of the fact that she's powerful, she's stout, she's opened up. A female, though, that, as I said, when we get her in motion, she wants to be a little sluggish around here, not quite as good in terms of her rear hog. A female that, if you compare her to the black female, while she's tighter in terms of her chest, she's not as good in terms of her head and neck set. She's not as square level in terms of her hip. The Brahmin female that was second in that class, beautifully balanced, long-sided, and feminine. Got to be more to her. I think it's very close. Can go either way. I'll use the black heifer to win. Brahmin heifer will be reserve out of 2. Give them a nice round of applause, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Our champion senior division winner out of the American Heifers, it belongs to Mr. Brody Pfizer, and reserve goes to Noah Richter. We will now select our champion American heifer with our 3 division winners. Coming out of the calf division will be Aiden Engelhardt. First place in the junior calf division, or champion junior calf division, is Whitley Piotrick. And Brody Pfizer will be our champion out of our senior division.
As we bring the three divisions back in to pick your Grand and Reserve in the American division, give these kids a nice round of applause. They've done a good job. Brought you some good cattle to look at. I do think there's a standout amongst the crowd in terms of the female that is the combination of the two that stand on either side of her. She's got look and presence. She's easily the best moving, more than enough power and substance. Young lady out of the middle division will be the champion. Congratulations to her. That one was in its division by itself, I believe. I'm going to follow up with the calf heifer to be reserved. Congratulations to all.
Our champion heifer in our American division belongs to Mrs. Whitley Beatrick. Reserve goes to Aiden Englehart. We will now move into our British heifer division, starting with our calf division of that. We have 2 entries in Class 2 with Mason and Holden Rader.
Well, these gentlemen bring us a really promising pair of Hereford-type females as we start off the British division. And the young man in the lead's going to stay there. I think that female is just absolutely striking. As you study her to the front 1/3 of her body and then to open up as much as she does in terms of her rib shape, her body build, and one to have that much power and muscle, do it in a very acceptable package in terms of soundness to structure. Really a nice one to win. And the heifer that comes in second, she's good too. I realize she's more powerful. She's actually just a little stouter all the way through. She's equally as attractive up front, where she does fall a little short compared to the class winner. Study her through her shoulder and knee. She's just a little more upright in that particular area or feature of her body. That's an excellent pair. My congratulations to both.
Winner of Class 2 British in our calf division will be Mason Rader. Second place goes to Holden Rader. Now, I had an error in mine. This heifer is younger. She's actually Class 1. Should be exhibited by Madison Mays. So Class 1 British heifer is coming in the ring now.
Young ladies, English females, one that I think extension is a term that fits her quite well because she is so long in terms of her body length and her silhouette. I think one that's still ample for an Angus female in terms of her muscularity. One that we could just stouten her up some in terms of power, but still a nice female. Give her a good round of applause.
Winner of Class 1 in the British heifer division is Madison Mays. We will now select our champion calf in the British division. First place out of Class 1 with Madison Mays, and first place out of Class 2 will be Mason Rader. We'll also be bringing Holden Rader in with his second place.
We come into this division out here, three cattle to select from. All of them have some quality, some redeeming features, two of them. Two of the three, though, I think are very good in a lot of areas. Going to keep those two Hereford females together for Grand and Reserve. Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Our champion British division female goes to Mason Raider, and reserve will go to Holden Raider. Okay, we'll now transition into our exotic females, first class of exotics. Will be exhibited by Caleb Kurlick, class 4. He'll be a single entry.
Just a single entry to start off the exotic division here. Young man brings us a very young, very green heifer, but one that really long and feminine featured up front. She's extremely extended in terms of her body length, her silhouette, and her hip. More days on feed. We hope she fills out more in terms of her body depth and width, but a good one nonetheless. Congratulations to him.
Winner of Class 4 and our calf division in the exotic will be Caleb Kurlick. Next in the ring, we have Class 7, will be Colton Breitenkamp from Navarro FFA.
Red heifer is an extremely different type than the first one that came in this particular division. Obviously, she is tremendously bold in terms of her body shape, really stout and powerful and muscular in terms of just her total width and squareness. A female that we could blend her a little more effectively out of her shoulder, make her a little more correct in terms of her hip, but definitely a stout, powerful, square one. Give him a good round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Our class winner of Class 7 exotic females goes to Colton Breitenkamp from Navarro FFA. Now we'll be bringing in Class 8. We have two entries in this class. We have Ryan Johnson and Randon Schwab.
We move into this class out here. Obviously, the black female is going to be the class winner for the females that we've seen so far in the breeding heifer show. That's the soundest moving, best structured heifer that still has a great deal of presence and look to her. One that's very good in terms of her just mass and muscle. Just a highly competitive female of the young man's. Heifer coming up front. That's going to be second. Long body, got some muscle and power. Just gets overwhelmed in terms of quality by the heifer that wins. Please give him a nice round of applause.
Okay, go ahead and pull around it. In Class 8 exotic females, we had first place goes to Randon Schwab and second place goes to Ryan Johnson. We will now be selecting our champion junior female in the exotic division. Out of the first class or Class 7 be Colton Breitenkamp, and Class 8, Randon Schwab.
Well, as we get out here, I think the black female is a dominant force within the pair. Just so much more correct in terms of her structural build. Looks like a lady and's got power and muscle. Should be the champion. Congratulations to him. We bring the second end of that class, and the red cattle that are left for reserve, obviously quite different in terms of type and kind. We could correct them both in terms of their movement or their structure, but call that a wash and sort them from there. There is a female that has a definite advantage in terms of power, substance, and mass. Young man up front will be reserved. Congratulations to him.
Champion junior division in our exotic heifer show goes to Randon Schwab, and the reserve goes to Colton Breitenkamp. All right, we're going to go ahead and select our champion exotic female. We also need to make sure we've got our champion American and Britishes in the holding area ready for the champion drive. So our class... Pull Ryan out. Yeah, or it goes to back.
As we get out here to pick an exotic champion, I think there's sure enough a runaway winner amongst the trio. Just one that is just so correct in terms of her build and soundness, still very attractive in terms of her show ring silhouette and powerful enough. Young man in the middle has my favorite and very easily the champion. Congratulations to you. I think for reserve, obviously you can see that you've got two that are very different in terms of type and kind. So you have to make a choice there. The heifer that comes out of the calf division, she's long, she's feminine, she's really, really attractive. I think she's the heifer that's a little better moving in terms of the way that she handles herself. She's obviously overpowered though, because the red heifer is stout, muscular, and powerful. She wants to be a little choppy in terms of the way that she goes, not quite as good in terms of her femininity. So they have advantages over each other in terms of a soundness perspective. I'll use the black heifer up front to be reserved in the division. Give them all a nice round of applause.
Our champion exotic female is led by Mr. Randon Schwab, and our reserve by Mr. Caleb Kurlick. We will now select our champion overall breeding heifer at the Guadalupe County Youth Show of 2025. We'll start off by bringing in our champion American heifer, owned by Miss Whitley Viatric. Our champion British heifer, owned by Mason Rader, and our champion exotic heifer, led by Randon Schwab. The reserves in their respective divisions will also be brought in. Reserve American heifer was Aiden Englehart. Our reserve British was Holden Raider, and our reserve exotic is owned by Caleb Kurlick. Let's give all of them a round of applause. A couple things I also wanted to mention that I didn't do during the steer show. I'd like to recognize our buckle donors of our champion buckle for the steer show was done by Pecan Classic, and then our heifer show was Williams Supply Company, Sarah Williams and Jason. Come on up. Yep. Both the champion and reserve buckles in each of those shows were done by the same folks. I also want to mention we will do a county bred heifer show immediately after this and then transition into our showmanship show, and we will start with the seniors.
Well, I know we didn't have the numbers in the female side of things that we had in the steer show earlier, but still, these three that stand before us in the front line, some of these that are coming in that are reserves, still a lot of quality within these cattle. So give these kids, these families, these breeders, nice round of applause. A good set. And I think the champion decision is quite close. And I like the reserves, don't get me wrong, but the heat of the battle comes down to these three champions out here. And it is really a decision that honestly, you can justify any of the three to be grand and any other one to be reserved. It's just personal preferences out here because it is so close. I'm going to talk them just a little bit. The American heifer up front, obviously one for that breed type or that division, one that's really got a great look. I think she's very good at the ground in terms of how she moves. A female that's got enough to her. At times, she wants to get a little tight, tense up inside of her loin, but still very, very nice one. The Hereford heifer striking. She's powerful. She's got some substance to her. One that's very good in those areas. Every once in a while when she goes, and granted, this isn't the most forgiving surface of any, she wants to roll just a little out of her rear hock. That's where I change her just a shade. And then the female at the back, sound moving, good at the ground, powerful, still attractive in terms of her front end, but probably within the three very, very good heifers, she's the one that we could sharpen up in terms of her feature just a little bit. So I like them all exceptionally well. I think the seconds are nice, but all these three at the front really impressed me. I'm going to use the Hereford to win. Exotic will be reserved. Give them a nice round of applause.
Our champion breeding heifer of the 2025 Guadalupe County Youth Show belongs to Mr. Mason Raider out of the British division, and our reserve goes to Mr. Randon Schwab, the champion exotic heifer. Let's give these two exhibitors a round of applause. Hey, do we have any county bred heifers? Senior showmanship exhibitors also need to be getting up to the holding area and getting ready for that division. County bred heifer class. How many we got? 3? Good. We've got 3 entries in the county bred heifer class. It's also been asked of me to let you know if you're getting hungry. They've got burgers and hot dogs and anything that can satisfy you over at the Knights of Columbus concession stand. It's a really good burger if you have never had one.
Just one. Oh, as I said in the steer show, proud of this county to highlight the kids that breed and raise their own or buy locally. That's something that you don't get to see at every county fair. So kudos to y'all for highlighting that portion of the show. As you study the 3, I'm going to use the young man at the back to be the champion. Congratulations to him.
You're Caleb, right? Our champion county bred heifer goes to Caleb Kurlick, and the heifer was bred by his brother Clayton. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, senior showman. We need to be getting up to the ring and getting ready. Doesn't look like anybody wants to be first. All right, let's go ahead and start senior showmanship.
Well, let's give the senior showmanship participants a big round of applause. Doing a great job out here. When showmanship comes after I've already seen them go in classes, sometimes in breeds, several times in classes, this is kind of cut and dried for me a lot of the time. There are instances when something will happen that can change something in the actual showmanship part of it. But more times than not, when showmanship's after the show, it is very hard to change my initial opinion. And I think this is a great group of showmen. I think there's lots of them in here that have either won a showmanship contest or have the ability to. As I narrow it down and reflect back how they did prior in the earlier classes, the first time I saw them throughout the day, I can whittle it down a little more. And then even with that, it gets very, very tight between 2, 3, 4 of them out here. Just really, really good showmen all the way through. The one that I like the best is the young man with the Hereford heifers. He'll be the champion. Congratulations to him.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Our champion senior showman is Mr. Mason Rader. We will now move into our intermediate division. You have the junior one. We'd like to take the time to recognize our sponsors. Our bunco sponsor for the senior showmanship bunco was Producers Co-op. For the current division that's in the ring, our intermediate will be Hillert Angus, Mr. Craig Hillert.
Well, as we get out here in the intermediate division, I know that y'all are getting ready for the day to be wrapped up, but I want you to hear me out on this. I do this a lot. I mean, a lot. And this is by far and away the toughest intermediate cattle division of showmanship I've ever seen at a county fair. So y'all should be very proud of that. It wasn't too many years ago that I brokered a lot of these steers and heifers throughout the state, and there are more kids in this ring right here that I would want on my show team than I wanted, and they do a great job, and it is very, very good. And they are all going to win a showmanship contest at some point if they continue on and go. It is so tough and so good. In the end of the day, I always say that how I play showmanship is based on one simple criteria. Y'all know I like to win these shows as much as I like to judge them. If I could pick one kid to show for me that I'd be confident get me to the backdrop, who would it be? I'd pick you, young man. Congratulations to you.
Our champion intermediate showman is Mr. Tucker Wells, and the buckle donated for that came from Hillert Angus, Mr. Craig Hillert. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. We have our last class of the day, and that will be our junior showmanship.
Well, let's give these 4 junior exhibitors a big round of applause. They're all doing excellent out here. Really, really good. As I said, I appreciate y'all having me the past couple of years. Been a lot of fun, a lot of quality in both divisions. Wish y'all all the best of luck at majors as we roll around to that. I'm headed to Fort Worth as soon as I put down this mic. But great show, great kids. I appreciate you having me in this division here. Well, I think all 4 of these are going to be more than competent and capable in terms of their skills as they go on develop. There is one that's a standout amongst the crowd. Young lady up front is the champion. Congratulations to her.
Thank you, Mr. Rash. Our champion junior showman is Miss Bentley Wells. Would y'all please join me in thanking Mr. Rash for spending the day with us to help sort these cattle, and better yet, treat our kids with this respect and give them the time that they deserved. With that, let's give him a round of applause also.